Welcome back to the not televised revolution, Marcia Squier. And for those of you that haven't been here before, I hope you're going to like it. What is up, Marcia?
Hey, thanks for having me on, Dale. Nice to be back. It's been a couple years, but we've been keeping in touch since then. This is just our first, our next interview. I was on political hiatus, so it's good to be back.
Don't let anyone tell you that internet friends are not real friends, okay? Keep that in your
No,
heart.
no, you guys are
Keep
not
it
my
close to
friends. You're
you.
my family.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. So we're here today to talk about you're running for a Senate seat in Michigan as a Green Party.
Yes.
All right. Why is it a good idea for people to vote for the Green Party?
Well, of the four largest parties, the Green Party being the fourth largest, Um, they are the only party that, as a whole, does not take corporate money or PAC money or super PAC money. And they just take individual small dollar donations. They're a grassroots party. And then, because one of the biggest problems is big money in politics. So the Green Party does that as a matter of policy. They don't get that
Corporate money. So
yeah,
you
they don't take any of it. And it's a world, there's green parties in other countries too. It's not just in America. So, in some senses, it's actually bigger than like the Democrats and Republicans because they're just in America, So, and ideologically, they're in the left wing libertarian quadrant, which is they believe in um, autonomy, and civil liberties, as opposed to like an authoritarian left wing, which is like the Democrats. And then the right wing side, you've got the authoritarian right, which is the Republicans, and the libertarian right, which is the Libertarian Party. So the Green Party is libertarian left. So we believe in, like I said, autonomy and civil liberties, but we also believe in social safety nets and like regulating businesses and big money in politics and stuff like that. We can't just have a free for all and anarchy. We've got to have social safety nets in place to protect the weakest members of our society.
so then, as a sub question to that, why is it a good idea to try to buck the political duopoly of the Democrat Republican Party? Why is that a good idea?
Well, honestly, they're 20th century politics, and we're in the 21st century now. And we really need to break away from the old-fashioned mindset if we're going to make any progress in this world. Because they're both owned by big corporations and billionaires, and that influence all those corporations care about, because they're not people, they're things, is the bottom line and profits. And when you care about profits more than people, the people don't get represented. Only profits get represented. And that's going to be our downfall if we don't break away from that. You know, um, at the very least, we need to break away from the authoritarianness. Everyone has a right to be, either left wing or right wing, but I think we should all be, in the egalitarian bottom half, where we're not, we don't have big government telling us what to do, just telling corporations what to do.
Wow, that was a really good answer. I really liked it. Um, so as a senator, what kind of power will
Hold
you
on,
have?
real quick,
Or is
real
it?
quick. Do you have a link to your YouTube channel?
I do.
Can you, I don't know, I just got a request for the link to the channel that's saying they can't find it.
All right. Well, if you type TNT Revolution, all one word, into the search bar, it will be found. I can do the same.
Okay, I'm gonna send that to him. Hang on one second. Okay.
All right. Oh, okay.
So your question?
My question was, what kind of power would you have if you get the office that you're seeking, and what exactly is the office?
So one of the, one of the jobs of the Senate is, legislation, obviously. Creating laws or even repealing them, referendum style. And the other job is to distribute our funds. They hold the purse strings, so to speak. And so one of the committees that I would immediately seek to get on, I don't know if they'd let me on it right away, but maybe eventually I could get on the Senate Appropriations Committee, and that's where they determine, who gets what. And I think that we have three branches of government, so I think that we should divide our funding equally, like one third going to the executive branch, one third going to judicial, and then one third going to legislative. So, like right now, our executive branch has got over 53% of our budget to the military. So we need to reduce that, to a more proportionate level, um, because we're just basically throwing our money away on all this death and destruction, instead of investing it in ourselves, in our own healthcare and education, and then in our country with like renewable energy and, infrastructure rebuilding. So if we reappropriated those funds, if we ended the war on drugs and we got off fossil fuels, we could really make a lot of cuts to both the executive branch, not just at the federal level, but at, the local level too, like state and county and city cops wouldn't need as much funding. And same thing with the judicial branch. They wouldn't need as much funding because there'd be less people going in front of a judge, and less money for prisons. We could close all the private prisons and ban them altogether. And we could even institute, equal pay for prison labor. So they're not making, 50 cents an hour to be firefighters or whatever. And their families aren't being forced to support them, and they can, maybe even still kind of support their families while they're in jail. But, not for drug related offenses. Obviously, other crimes that are committed as a result of drugs would still be prosecuted, but, not drugs themselves. And we could even allow for drug dealers to claim an income instead of, the black market, and they could become, taxpayers too.
I take it we're 420 friendly in the Green Party. I like that a
Yes.
lot. I like that a lot. And do you think you'll have some kind of sway over public opinion, like on bigger issues?
Yeah, I think that, given right now we have two independent senators and the rest are Democrat and Republican, but even our independent senators tend to lean one way or the other for the most part. So if I got in there as the first third party candidate as a Green, I could foresee my vote being a tiebreaker more often than not.
Right, right.
If it's because we're in such a polarized Senate, it's so split pretty much down the middle. Every vote counts in the Senate. With the House, you got 435 votes, but in the Senate, you've only got 100 votes. And so my vote would count for 1% of that, not one out of 435. So my vote would be critical to other things that other senators would want to pass. And then, that would then enable me to maybe get some of the legislation that I would like to see put forward also passed. Because if it doesn't pass the Green Party values, I wouldn't vote for it. The Green Party has a universal platform, not just of not taking corporate money, and but they believe in the the 4 pillars and the 10 key values, including like economic justice and nonviolence, and there's a whole litany of things that I believe in that the Green Party really aligns with my values. And so it was a really easy thing for me to join the Green Party, because they have this, a great foundation, 4 pillars and 10 key values that is the same. And then, you get into the individual nuances and things like that. But
That
I think
actually is a great segue because the set of questions I wrote for you were basically you can distill it into 10 key values and 4 pillars. Like, that actually makes complete sense. I think you might agree that I have a pretty solid set of questions for you. Um, so on to my platform. And these are the things I would do in order, if it was my platform, in order of what needs to happen first. Not necessarily what's most important, but like the order it needs to happen. So here comes a not televised revolution joke. All right. When you say my vote doesn't count, I want you to compare that to the breath you are taking right now. Every little bit does count. So my first question is about voting rights and election fraud. Giving people the right to vote.
Okay, yeah, that
That's
was
number one
that
for
was
me.
like the main, that was like my one question. Once I read about the Green Party and its values, and its pillars, I asked them, like, okay, but what about election integrity? Because we can vote all day, but if the machines are rigged, or the central tabulator is hacked, it doesn't matter how many ballots are in that ballot box, it's going to come back a certain percentage because of fractionalization and messing with it before or after the fact. So and then the other thing is super delegates. How the Democrats use one vote can delete 10,000 votes of regular people. They're kind of like the corporate money. They just come in and they just disregard what the voters want, and they say, well, we know better than you. And one of the things I learned about the Green Party is not only did Jill Stein end up filing for recounts in 3 states in 2016, but do you remember the recount, the Bush-Gore recount
Oh,
in
2000.
Florida?
Yeah.
Do you know who filed for that recount? That was the Green Party candidate who filed for that recount, David Keith Cobb.
Okay.
He's the one who filed for that recount. And I'm a big supporter of recounts. Hand-counted paper ballots with citizen oversight, not machine-counted
Oh yeah.
digital ballots with government oversight. That's
Yeah.
our voting machines are owned by private companies with
Right.
proprietary software, and we're holding publicly funded primaries for parties that hand select their candidate anyway. So why are we even having a primary for president, a separate primary just for president, if it's just going to end up being Joe Biden anyway? Why
Very
did we
nice.
have to do that? And same thing with the recount in 2016 revealed a lot of irregularities in the Democrat strongholds. So Michigan's solution was to end the recount, not investigate a single precinct with any problems, but just demand that the entire state of Michigan get all brand new machines. And so
Yeah.
the state of Michigan
Machines are
taxpayers,
not the answer.
without our consent, had to go out and buy new machines for everybody. When I just want to do away with the machines in the first place. And the new machines, you can look it up yourself. They have secure connection to the internet. Like nothing is a secure connection to the internet. They do a conference every year, and it takes, mere minutes to hack the system and change the votes. And that has been knowledge since 2006, at least, when Hacking Democracy, the movie, came out. And these machines were a result of that 2000 recount. It was the same thing. Like, that was let's get machines because of the hanging chads. We got to get machines now. And it was the Help America Vote Act that actually forces us to vote on these machines. So that's, one of the other, besides, Telecommunications Act, or, the Controlled Substances Act. That's another one that I'd like to repeal and replace, is the Help America Vote Act.
Oh, that's great. So that's actually great.
We have more control.
That leads me actually into my next question, which is, it is about the drug war. And I did write another joke for it. I wrote a bunch of jokes for this episode because it makes me, feel kind of good inside. I mean, wouldn't it make you feel good if it was okay for you to smoke weed?
Laughter's the best medicine.
Well, and I mean, marijuana certainly helps with that, and creativity.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that's kind of pretty clear, cut and dried. Yeah, it's just absolute common sense, and I should spitball a little bit here, like like you were saying, like a actual leftist libertarian would want to allow us to do whatever we want to our bodies,
Just not let the corporations do whatever they want.
Right? I mean,
the Walmarts and the Verizons, the big corporations, the corporate monopolies.
Right. And
the Wall Street companies, not the Main Street, individually owned small businesses.
So you're saying we're not supposed to just let Nestle buy our water supply? Is that what you're saying?
Right.
That's un-American.
Yeah, and I prefer a franchise over, corporate. Because at least with franchises, you've got like small business owners that share a common name. So that would even be a better route than, giant Walmarts everywhere.
All right. So very good. I think I did a pretty good job of putting these in order. Next is anti-corruption. All right. Pedophile, a priest, and a bankster, and a Republican, and a centrist all walk into a soiree together. It's about to be an orgy of rape because you're all going to get fucked.
I got one. A priest, a cop, and a rabbi all walk into a bar. Who gets in trouble? The bar owner for being open.
So corruption, big deal, I think.
Yeah, it's really gotten out of hand, which is partly why I feel compelled to run for office myself, because it's like even the people that aren't necessarily corrupt themselves, it's like they're enablers. Like when it was revealed that they cheated in 2016 for Hillary, and everybody knew it, and Bernie dropped the ball on that, and he just let them. He just let them steal it from him. It was easier for him to play the victim than to stand up to the corruption. And then I was like, well, forget Bernie. I'm just going to run myself.
Good for you.
Forget it. Like, that's not what I gave you money to. I didn't give you money to fold. And it was just revealed that they cheated. It wasn't even a fair shake. And then not only did he fall in line with the cheating and enabling it, but then he went and, parroted the Russiagate narrative on top of it.
Yeah, that was
talking about, Russia helped Trump steal it from Hillary. Hillary stole it from you. Who are you to even talk? And so we need to have some people in there with a backbone, with a spine, and that, I'm not saying Bernie's a bad guy. He's not necessarily one of the corrupt ones. I just think it's, he's like 80 years old. He just doesn't have it in him anymore. And so we need new blood in there that is, willing to take a hard look at how we're doing things. This guy is just now tweeting we need to cut our military spending by 10%. Like 10%, we just raised it by 10% since Trump's been president. So like literally that's all you want to cut it by is 10%. We're already at 50%, 50 something percent of our budget going to the military. And it just seems like, he's past his prime, as are a lot of them. We've got some up and comers, but we definitely need to replace a lot of these corrupt people.
Absolutely.
And not necessarily the enablers, because they're not necessarily corrupt, but maybe with some of the less corrupt people in there, the enablers would feel more inclined to, fight the good fight instead of just letting these people get away with the stuff.
I think we're about to see why I did a good job of putting these questions in order, because the next question is, should we tax the rich?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially in terms of the corporations that they own, like companies like Verizon aren't even paying tax. They have so many loopholes, and companies like Walmart have employees on government assistance.
And then they have the money to corrupt our politicians.
Right. And literally they could have just took that money and given it back to the community and
Back
for the
to their
betterment of
employees.
all.
Back to their employees first.
Right.
Like, I'm going to say something from my own platform, and that is, I'm not running like you are, but maybe someday. But if you make more than $1 billion a year, the first place everything over $1 billion goes to is back to your employees and back to the communities where you farm your resources.
Right.
So, yeah, actually, see, I put these questions in a great order. My next question is about workers' unions and democracy at the workforce.
Yeah, I do. I've had lots of jobs through my life. They've all been in the customer service industry. So I've had lots of different bosses and lots of different type work environments. Some big companies, some small, some medium. Night shift, day shift. Never. I worked midnights a little bit, a very short time. But you know, I'll quit a place that treats me as an employee like crap. Because most of the places I work don't even offer health insurance or a retirement plan anyway. So I just quit and go find another one of those jobs that don't offer health insurance or retirement.
Right.
So I think that the jobs that I've really enjoyed are the ones that give me some personal freedom, some creative license to kind of do my own thing, and as long as I'm within their guidelines, then I'm good. I do a lot better with that type of work environment where I have some kind of say in how my day goes, or even my schedule, where I can kind of pick and choose which shifts I want or which accounts I want or whatever. And I also have, I've gotten into management into quite a few of those jobs I had. I did get promoted into management level, and I'm not an authoritarian, like I said, so I prefer to just make suggestions as
Right.
opposed to like mandates. I'm a valet right now, and we have cones, that kind of reserve our section of cars for where we park our cars, but they're just suggestion cones. You could totally park there. I'm not going to write you a ticket or have your car towed. It's just a suggestion. You can
You
tip
hit
me
a
or
sore
you can
spot.
not.
You
I
hit a
don't,
sore spot for
like
me
I'm not
because
gonna.
I used to drive pizza and I tried to borrow a spot and they booted me. And I really needed that. I was busy. I did write a joke for this question. The mainstream media gives us every reason not to believe them. So why should you believe me and why should I believe you? Why should we trust each other and form unions?
Well, the thing behind trust is truth.
You know,
And liars, they might talk a good game, and they might even go so far as to believe their own lies. So they're like delusional, and so those are the ones that are harder to to pinpoint because they believe their own lies. So if it comes out of their mouth, it must be true. But what you got to do is over time kind of see if their actions match their words in like in a pattern, and not just like sometimes their actions match their words, but generally are they authentic, and it's the authenticity that lends itself to trust, you know.
And the
So
simple
you and I
truth,
have known each other a few years, and your actions match your words up so far, so I trust you.
right? And there's the simple fact that we are in this together.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Um. Okay. So this is in the form of a knock knock joke. So All right. So you have a role to play in this. Hey man. You're supposed to say what?
What's up? Who's there?
Well, you got no arms and no legs. I should have sent you this. I know. I had an arm and a leg infected, and it cost me an arm and a leg to get them amputated. Uh, so if you can't tell, the next question is about single-payer health care. Is there anything you can do about it as a senator?
Yeah, I do like the notion, and I'm a big supporter of guaranteed health care for all of us. Whatever you want to call it, single payer, universal Medicare for all. I call it guaranteed health care. And and I also want, us to have guaranteed education. We need to be our best, smartest, healthiest version of ourselves in order to be productive members of society the best that we can. And there is something that already exists, but you have to give yourself in military servitude to get it, and that's the GI Bill. And so I'd kind of like to see like a GI Bill for all, where you have that guaranteed health care and education, and instead of military servitude, you could do community service, sort of like a domestic Peace Corps, where you can give back to your community, but you're still guaranteed health care and education, even if your community service isn't as extensive as somebody else's, and even that would be voluntary. You wouldn't have to join the military. You wouldn't have to do community service. Maybe we could give you the tools to open your own nonprofit organization. Maybe you'd like to have a rescue at your house for dogs, and we can help you do that in a safe and effective way, to help dogs, just whatever you come up with, not like a forced community service, just your own idea.
Right, right. I have this fantasy that if I win the lottery somehow, like maybe I'll buy a house and turn it into a homeless shelter. Like a mansion full of homeless dudes and ladies. I
Right,
should get some kind of tax credit for that if I do end up doing
right.
that. Like it should be encouraged. Yeah, and it's not a form of philanthropy. It's real. I don't know. That goes back to the issue of trust. Now I'm rambling, but so next question. Well, freedom of speech. I think we already touched on that a little bit in the intro. So I think we already
Well,
know. Like everyone should have the right. I mean, like flag burning, tearing down statues, being Alex Jones in general. Like, where do you go on that?
that's actually a great question, and it has to do with my party. The Green Party believes in free speech. Like, let's say I were to join the Democrat Party and try to run for U.S. Senate against Michigan's top senator. They're not going to just let me waltz right in there. They're going to silence me, just like they did to me as a voter in 2016 when all the superdelegates voted against the winning candidate. I had to literally run for office as a Green just so I could speak to them to their face and call them out for what they did. And so it was running as a Green that helped me have my redress of grievances and my First Amendment right to free speech, and to telling my representatives exactly what I thought of what they did. And then also on the other side of that, with the Green Party, you know, we have our problems. All party has problems. All parties have infighting and all that, you know. But at the end of the day, I really appreciate the right to have infighting. You know, I don't want to be silenced. I want a right to voice my own opinion. And I might not always get along with the other members of my party, and we might have some disagreements. But none of us take corporate money. And so even on our worst day, we're still better than the Democrats because they take corporate money. You know, and so we have, you know, we don't just say we support free speech in the Green Party. We actually do have free speech within the party.
I like it. Okay. I kind of switched up the order of my questions here. All right. So freedom of speech does actually tie in with can we end the wars? Can we as America, use feel like we have our freedom of speech and use it to end the wars?
Yeah, I feel like, the authoritarians who are owned by the military industrial complex and all those, military, private military supply companies, like Raytheon and GE and Halliburton and all of them, they are the ones, we've turned America into like war for profit as a business model, and we really need to shift away from that. Not only are we destroying other countries and killing millions of people overseas for what's actually a fight over their resources, and has nothing to do with terrorism, really. That's a straw man argument as to why we need to be at war in the first place. None of these countries even attacked us. Not one. And we're in a state where we're run by psychopaths and sociopaths who don't care about human life, and they care more about inanimate objects than animate ones. And so that's going to be a struggle, because this type of person has always existed throughout history, as far back as the Greeks, the ancient Greeks, and even the ancient Egyptians had their versions of this type of person. And so this is, it's an ongoing struggle. But that doesn't mean that they're winning. They might have won the battles, but we're going to win the war. We just have to keep up the fight. Otherwise, they will win if we forfeit. And I mean winning as in they'll win more war. That's winning to them. They want endless war. That's a win for them.
We're getting towards the end. Yeah, we're obviously anti-war. And obviously, with you as a voice in the Senate, you could raise your voice and make it more of an issue. If anyone ever points a camera at you. So we got just a few more here. All right. So, what are your thoughts on pollution and climate change?
I think that they go hand in hand. And, there is climate change deniers out there. But you can't deny pollution exists. And
Right.
you can't deny that it's bad for Mother Nature. And that, we're all inhabitants of this earth together. So we got to all do our part to try to make the world a better place. And, the worldwide lockdown really actually did some good for the world, and the world itself, in terms of nature, So we kind of proved that if we all put our minds to something, we actually can accomplish it. And it's sad that we had to do it for a virus and not for the environment itself, but at least we proved it could be done. Gas was gasoline barrel was trading in the negative
Right.
for the first time, like because nobody was using it, and so we need to get into more modern, energy solutions, because fossil fuels are one of our biggest polluters, so we need to get fossil fuel free, and then we can reduce our dependence on, on other countries' resources too, and ruining our own environment over, fossil fuels.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I put these questions in a certain order because to me, like, first we have to be able to vote, then we have to be able to, you know, not go to jail for dumb reasons. Then we have to, fight against corruption, tax the rich, form our own labor unions, single payer healthcare so we can just freaking survive. And then it just kind of, those are my top five, I guess, something like that. And then the rest just follows. It's possible because of where I start my list with. And so the final question, two questions. What can we do with the future of technology? How can we use technology, for example, to put a pen to a piece of paper and have write-in voting? You know.
Well, you know, we could do, blockchain, open source software for voting systems, and we could do, more virtual town halls, which can actually reach more people than if you were to hold one in person. In terms of 21st century politics, next gen politics, from us Gen Xers, we really need to let go of the TRS-80s and the Apple IIe's and get with the program, and technology itself moves so quickly, that it's hard to even keep up with it.
Well, right.
But we definitely need to at least get our government systems and our political systems into the modern age of technology. It really is the information superhighway, but just like a highway, you could get in an accident and die. You got to be careful. You got to have net neutrality too. We don't want the large corporations taking over. And I would actually like to see that the web, be a publicly owned utility,
Very nice.
and we own it, and we don't have to pay for it. We should all have access to it.
And what about see, this is kind of my point of view kind of thing, but like the future of artificial intelligence and you know what we do in space.
You know, it is it's a wide open field, and we need to put more research into both things. We as a species have been fascinated with space since the beginning of mankind, and I took an astronomy class once, one astronomy class in college, and it was one of the best classes I ever took, where you actually get to learn about the universe, in relation to yourself, and all the other things that are in it, what we know so far. And that was, back in the mid 90s, and we probably know a lot more since my Astronomy 101 class. Obviously that's not my forte, but I definitely see the value of it and in investing more in it, because artificial intelligence can do things that the human mind can't.
Right.
It's, but they can't feel emotion. Emotion is human, so we still need to value the human mind too. You can't just disregard humans altogether in favor of artificial intelligence, but see it as more of like an assistant, as an aid.
Well, right, and I was looking for a mention of democracy being involved. Like the people instead of the corporations have some kind of say in where we go with our technology.
Right. Yeah, I'd like to actually, I talked about this in my last campaign, is develop an app. And I'm not the only one who's talked about this. I think there was a guy in California last time around talking about it too. Um, sort of like a direct democracy app with as me as a senator. And every different category of person would have a different weight of a vote, where if it's like a voter in Michigan, they would have the highest weighted vote. If it was somebody that's in Michigan but isn't old enough to vote, they would get the next highest ranking. And then if it was somebody in another state that is old enough to vote, because I'm going to be representing the United States Senate, from Michigan. So obviously, I'd also want like neighboring states to have a say too. Like if there's something going on with Lake Michigan, Wisconsin should have a say. Not just Michigan. So they would get my next most, rank. And then, the same thing with people in other states that are old enough to vote or that can't vote because they're in prison for whatever reason that they can't vote. And then even globally would be the lowest ranking, where citizens from other countries, let's say we want to bomb Egypt. Don't you think the people of Egypt might be able to have a say in that? So like with each piece of legislation that comes up, I could, put it into the app and let people vote on it. And based on that ranking would be, their percentage, and it would be a fluid ranking. Like I said, like obviously the people in Egypt would have a higher ranking than the people in Wisconsin if it has to do with Egypt.
Right. So kind of like a
ranking.
like an automatic public opinion poll.
Right.
For everything that we do. I like it. All right. Final question. I knew I must have wrote a joke for this. All right. I would be proud to pay my taxes if the government spent it on the people. So, what is possible? What is possible if we really work together?
Yeah, we can definitely accomplish more as a collective than we can as an individual. It's like it takes a village, and I don't, we're in the 21st century. This isn't survival of the fittest. We're not barbarians. We're in a civilized society, and we all need to act like it. We need to stop living in 2,000 years ago in the biblical times. We need to all just come together. And, the Democrats and Republicans have us so divided. They spend all their time alienating, pandering to their base and alienating everyone else, totally forgetting that each one of them is only basically like 30% of the population, and then 40% is independents. So they're legitimately like alienating 70% of the population every time they pander to their base.
Right.
And someone like me who is basically an independent, in the fact that I'm neither a Democrat nor a Republican, and I never have been. I was always an independent registered voter until I joined the Green Party. So, that's I'm coming from the majority. I might be in a minority party, but I'm with the majority of people who agree that the Democrats and Republicans both suck. But a lot of times there's nobody else to vote for. In some places, people just run unopposed time after time after time. They don't even have a challenger. And so we really need to encourage, more citizen candidates and more citizen journalists like yourself, because we really need to take our country back. And we can't if we don't try. They're not just going to give it back to us. And if they do, it's going to be a scorched earth type of situation.
Well, that was amazing. I don't know how to put a cherry on top of that ice cream. Go ahead and shout out your, how do we learn more about you and your Facebooks and are you on Twitter? All that stuff.
Okay, yeah. So I am on Facebook, and my personal profile is my hub, basically there. And then which is Marcia Squier, MarciaSquier. And then I also have my Senate page, which is Marcia Squier for U.S. Senate. We've got some Facebook groups too, if you want to join a Facebook group, like my Dank Meme Stash and Youpers Support Marcia Squier, Downriver. There's a handful of Facebook groups as well. And then on Twitter, I am at @triple_Marcia, like Marcia. Say my name 3 times and then vote for me. And on YouTube as well, Marcia Squier for U.S. Senate. I've got playlists on there from different YouTubers that have interviewed me for my last 2 campaigns. And then I'll be making a new playlist with this campaign as well. So any of the YouTubers that have interviewed me, you can find them all there, all the different interviews I've done. And my email is Marcia4Senate, Marcia, the number 4, Senate at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to endorse my campaign or donate, you can go to crowdpack.com and search me there. I ran through them with my 2018 campaign as well. So you want to find my 2020 campaign, which is self-titled Non-Corporate Pro-Peace People's Advocate for U.S. Senate. Or you can look my name up and find me there. And that has all the links to my other, my other social media as well. And you can donate, or if you don't have the money to donate, I totally understand. You can endorse my campaign on that site as well, and I would appreciate that.
All right. Well, I just did a podcast. It feels really good. I really enjoy this. I really, really enjoy this. I really had a great time with you. And for anyone listening, Marcia's got all kinds of energy. Like, if you follow her on Facebook, she's got something new every day. It's like, I find myself like, how does she even do this? But yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having me on, Dale.
All right. And I don't have a sign off line yet, but
I usually tell everybody peace and love.
Peace and love for
Peace
you and
and
me
love.
and everybody. All right.